In his first administration, President Trump all too often deliberately directed disaster aid based on the party politics of local leadership and past electoral performance, not the needs of the community and disaster survivors. In 2017, his administration denied 99% of the aid that North Carolina's Democratic governor requested as part of cleanup efforts after Hurricane Matthew.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has only been back in Congress for a couple of days, and she's already making a fool of herself, but that shouldn't surprise us. She is always angry, unhinged in attacking her colleagues. But what is the surprise is that she's not discriminating. She's going after both Democrats in a disgusting and transphobic way, which we will get into in just a second. But she's also going after Republicans, threatening and attacking her colleagues on the right, which is just so funny to see this MAGA civil war. But that's been going on for a couple of days now. What's new is Marjorie Taylor Greene attacks on her new colleague, Sarah McBride, who we have seen Republican Nancy Mace make disgusting transphobic attacks against. And when Marjorie Taylor Greene was asked about that, she really just melted down, lost her mind, and attacked the reporter who asked her the question. So before we get into that Marjorie Taylor Greene meltdown, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me now. Like I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene melted down when asked a simple question. But before we get to that, I want to hear an update on Chris Hayes about Marjorie Taylor Greene attacking her own Republican colleagues.
So far, it's unclear how effective this lobbying campaign has been. Some senators have said they're reserving judgment. They'd like to see the House Ethics Committee report into Gaetz. That committee, the House Ethics Committee, is set to meet tomorrow to discuss how to move forward with that report, which again is, as far as we can see, completed. It's a question of whether it gets released and how. Now, the probe was effectively shelved, or at least the release of the report was effectively shelved, when Gaetz abruptly resigned from Congress last week, which caught everyone by surprise. Now, there's certainly a case, I think, humbly, for the public to have access to the details in the report nevertheless, including the witnesses who say they saw Matt Gaetz having sex with a minor. Just today, we learned that an apparent hacker gained access to sworn testimony from two women involved in a related civil case. We should note the hacked material has not been made public, but it's another reminder this information still exists out there. Some House Republicans really don't want that information to be made public. I don't know why, but Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia has even resorted to threatening members of her own party to that end. Quote, "For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we are going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed, all your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money. The entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews, but not just those, there's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do." Now, of course, there's some, grain of salt, consider the source, conspiratorial ruminations there. But, you know, if there's a lot of this going around the Republican members of Congress, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We should know about it. Now, the Congresswoman provided no evidence such reports exist, but we do know that the Gaetz ethics report exists. We do know, according to a lawyer for some women, that they testified about what he did. And if this man is going to not just have a job in the administration, run the Department of Justice, I think the American public deserves to see it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is really losing it, and I support this effort air out all of the dirty laundry of MAGA. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see all the reports. I would love to see what's said behind closed doors about your colleagues. Go for it. But what you should stop doing, Marjorie is jumping on the Republican bandwagon of transphobia against Congresswoman-elect Sarah McBride. Now, Sarah McBride is the first trans woman to be elected to Congress. And so Republicans have decided to lose their minds over it, specifically Nancy Mace, who introduced a bill banning Sarah McBride from using the women's restroom, and Congress. And Republicans are getting behind it. And of course, they can't defend this weird and targeted bill. And so when they ask questions, they get pretty upset, like Marjorie Taylor Greene did, melting down right here.
Statement that Sarah McBride, the incoming congresswoman from Delaware, shouldn't be using the women's bathrooms here in the Capitol. Federal buildings, I think, too, is what she was kind of explaining. I know you've maybe agreed with her to a certain extent in the statement previously. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agreed. Sarah McBride, as he calls himself, formerly Tim McBride, is a biological man, and he should not be using any of our restrooms in the Capitols, in our office buildings. But Nancy Mace's resolution doesn't go far enough. A resolution is just a statement by Congress saying that Congress disagrees with something. We need something more binding, and that's what I just brought up at the microphones there in our conference, is I directly asked Speaker Johnson what the men in our leadership are going to do about this, because this has to be stopped. America gave a mandate at this election and said not only are they sick of the open borders, the invasion, the out-of-control inflation, foreign wars, but they're sick of the trans ideology being shoved down our throats, and it's an attack on women and children all over the country. I don't think Nancy Mace's resolution does enough. I think we need to do more. That's what I asked Speaker Johnson, and he committed to me in the conference that Sarah McBride will not be using our restrooms.
It's been reported that you said you'd get into a physical altercation with a biological male if you saw them in the bathroom. Would you get into a physical altercation with?
How is that reported? How is that reported? How is that reported?
It's been on social media that was.
So how is that reported?
I'm just wondering if you would get into a physical altercation with.
I shouldn't have to, but I shouldn't have to do that. No woman should have to. But look at what men have been doing to women. Look at all the female athletes that have had to compete against men. There's a volleyball player that has brain damage today because of a biological male spiking a ball into her head. Should any woman have to endure that? So if you're going to ask stupid questions like that, don't advocate for mentally ill men pretending to be women invading our spaces. You're a woman yourself, and you shouldn't accept predators in your bathrooms either.
When you run away in anger from a simple question asked about something that you did that you can't defend, maybe you're wrong. Maybe that's a good indication that you're on the wrong side of this thing. And that's what Republicans have been. They have been hypocritical. They have been grossly transphobic. And these people who said that it was Democrats who were always so focused on culture war issues and talking about everything but the economy. Yeah, I don't think they're focused on cracking down on the price of eggs over there. It's not a very focused effort by the Republican Party, and that's what the MAGA majority in the House was. It was just constant lies and conspiracy theories. That's all they did. They never got anything done. They don't plan on it either. But what they did accomplish was scaring people, specifically people affected by hurricanes in the past couple of months. And that has been revisited in a hearing about FEMA's response to those hurricanes. And Jamie Racin so perfectly called out not just Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump and the rest of their colleagues. So we're going to check it out right here.
From the norms of nonpartisanship, which must govern the conduct and the work of the federal workforce. Federal workers have a duty to serve all Americans, regardless of their political identification. FEMA's prompt and unequivocal personnel action in this case is powerful evidence that the civil service system is working, not only to deliver quality public service, but also to correct employee errors and ensure that the people whose homes were skipped, as in this case, receive outreach and assistance. And I understand that there were 20 homes that were skipped, and then they were immediately addressed afterwards, but I want to ask about that. Now, none of this is to deny for a moment that in recent months, FEMA aid workers have been forced to work under a cloud of propaganda and lies concocted to erode public trust in FEMA. Because of this disinformation, many victims of hurricanes have rejected federal assistance, and others have even harassed and threatened FEMA workers. voters. As Republican Congressman Chuck Edwards, who represents Asheville, North Carolina, said, all the misinformation has been, quote, not just unhelpful, but it's been harmful. I agree with my Republican colleagues and Administrator Chris Well. Federal agencies must serve all Americans, and that means a federal workforce of nonpartisan professionals hired based on competence and merit. What's true of FEMA canvassers is, of course, true of the rest of the government. We need government for all the people, regardless of political viewpoint. President-elect Trump has promised to be a president for all Americans, and I hope he delivers on that. And if he falls short of it, I trust all my colleagues will hold him to it. In his first administration, President Trump all too often deliberately directed disaster aid based on the party politics of local leadership and past electoral performance, not the needs of the community and disaster survivors. In 2017, his administration denied 99% of the aid that North Carolina's Democratic governor requested as part of cleanup efforts after Hurricane Matthew. Also in 2017, after Hurricane Maria, President Trump blocked the full release of emergency assistance to Puerto Rico that was appropriated by us in Congress due to his unfounded belief that the destruction and death toll had been inflated to make him look bad. In 2018, after California suffered the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in its history, President Trump initially refused to approve disaster aid because of the state's liberal Democratic leanings. He reportedly later changed his mind after his staff provided him data showing that there were more Trump voters in Orange County, California, than there were in the entire state of Iowa. Now is the right time for all of us, Mr. Chairman, and I mean this, for all of us to agree that nobody in public office, no matter how high nor how low, should play partisan politics with disaster relief in the age of climate change.
It is dangerous to push the conspiracies that Republicans do, and it always hurts those most affected by disasters, those most affected by pandemics, and those most vulnerable. And they're usually their colleagues and constituents, but they don't care. They never have. But we have to do is call out their lies no matter what. That's what Jamie Raskin did, and that's what we're going to be doing on this show every single day. And if you want to support that as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I'll see it soon.